Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our show today, continuing in our theme of shows on healing, we did a show on healing physical pain, one on healing mental pain, which is like problem solving, one on healing the hurt, the emotional pain, the feelings. And today's show is sort of healing the feeling of spiritual separation anxiety. It's really dealing with the loneliness, the emptiness, the disconnection, the feeling like it's all them and no us.
It's important when we say spiritual pain that we make clear right here at the top of the show that there really is no such thing. Only in terms of the words, the semantics. It's a lot like the physics around light and dark, in that darkness is an opposite in terms of the way we use words, light and dark. But darkness, of course, is the absence of an energy, where light is the presence of an energy. And so it is with spirituality. In virtually all religious and philosophical traditions, spirituality is a peaceful, loving, warm, safe, wonderful feeling. And any pain associated with it would have to be the absence of spirit, not spiritual pain. So having said that, the feeling that we're alienated, that we're not close to a divine nature or not part of the divine nature, but feeling very separated, very alone, very alienated, well, that's a symptom, just like your emotional pain and physical pain are symptoms of a condition that needs to be fixed or healed or redeemed, refined, improved, uplifted somehow. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I've gone through really three specific eras of my life in dealing with my spirituality. As a child, as a young boy, it was like God was almost like the Santa Claus figure. He knows when you've been bad or good, so be good for God's sake. And then in my teens, I rejected religion and threw the God thing out with it and thought it was just me. Like the body is it, and when I'm done, and there's no afterlife, nothing after that. And I remember feeling, well, like sort of superior to those people who had to have this religion as a crutch kind of thing. But I also, underneath it all, was kind of like a little empty and a little lonely, and a little scared about it. Well, if there is no heaven or there is no after, if this is it, am I making the most of this? And there was a feeling of sort of loneliness around that. And then at some point later on, I never really grabbed religion back, but I started to get that God is everything. I'm part of God. God is in everything. Everything is God, and I'm part of everything. And all of a sudden, this feeling of spiritual loneliness went away. I realized I'm not separated. I'm just in a body. I'm a spiritual being living in a human form at the moment, but I've always been here. This energy can't be created or destroyed. It's always been here. And it's like there's a freedom in that, and it's also like an ability to feel like it's all us and no them instead of it's all them and no us. It's a completely different feeling. When I'm scared, when I'm stressed, when I forget, then I move into this, I'm all by myself in the world kind of thing, or maybe it's just me and my wife, or maybe it's just me and my wife and my partner, But then I relax and I feel safe, and I realize, dink, 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 there's all these other pieces of the puzzle that I'm part of, that there's this whole world, this whole universe of the animal kingdom and the vegetable kingdom and the mineral kingdom, all of which I'm connected to, all of which I'm part of. And there's a feeling in that feels real safe and real connected and real not separated, part of the whole.
We're working from a fundamental premise that everything that hurts, that angers you or upsets you or makes you feel sad, depressed, lonely, alienated, and separated is rooted in fear. Not merely anxiety, but really deep, profound ignorance. And at the center of all of our fears is the unknown truth of who we really are and what we're really for. We've, in past programs, addressed the dilemma of, what do I do? And do you know what you want? And are you aware of what you want the most in order to know what to do? But it really begs the question of who am I and what am I for? Well, many really great philosophers in religion and outside of religion have said the same thing. You're here to discover the truth of who you are and what you're for. That's why it's a question. And then help other people do the same thing. Service and just helping your neighbor, and that's part of your self-interest. This bizarre dialectic we have politically in America right now. Are you interested in what's best for the self, sort of a right-wing idea of self-interest, or do you care about the community? Are you primarily interested in community interest? That makes you a socialist, I guess. The idea that there's really no separation here, that it is in your self-interest to care about your neighbor, is slowly dawning upon the people of the world. And in spite of our fears of world government, which we don't need, we can still have sovereignty and self-determination, and work together for the greater good of all concerned. Well, is this a spiritual concept? Is it a personal concept? It certainly is. It's based on the idea that you really do need to better understand who you are, not only in the religious sense of an egoic, self-centered, often frightened. In religion, in Christianity, you're often just called a sinner, a very bad person, tempted to be selfish and immoral and so on. But our whole series here, Finding Yourself in Paradise, suggests that the kingdom is within and there is a higher self, that you have another nature, a more refined, more improved aspect of yourself. Now, there's a great philosopher from the 20th century, Teilhard de Chardin, who said in his classic book, Phenomena of Man, it's not that you have a soul, you are a soul. Well, again, whether you look at religion or philosophy in general, Plato said the soul shares the ground of God. Maybe that soul can be accessed now. What if you don't have to wait till you die to find that higher self, that soul nature? And maybe the battle that goes on within, the feeling of alienation and separation that causes us to be so afraid and to hurt so much, comes from fearing that we're only this self-centered, egoic nature, and we don't really have access to this higher self. We're here to argue week after week after week, maybe argue is the wrong word, to present to you the evidence and practical portable tools to access that better nature, that higher self that's available. It just speaks in a still, small voice, and you have to quiet the mind and calm the emotional nature to tune in. But it's there. The more you know about the truth of who you are, the better you're going to like the truth of who you are.
This anxiety we have about separation is easy to really see in the emotional nature of the being. I mean, you take a dog and leave it in an apartment for all day long, all the time, and no people to connect with, and it gets anxious, it gets nervous, it feels like, where's my pack? Well, we're social animals. We also want to connect with our pack, and we feel it very strongly several times in our lives. For example, when parents, specifically when mothers give their little teeny babies to daycare, and they haven't had a chance to really make that connection yet and really bond, that can be really hard, that separation anxiety that the littlest children get by being separated from their mom and dad. I mean, even grandma is, like somebody different. It's not mom, and so there's a separation anxiety. You see it even in the tiny tots when they hand them to dad. They start to cry because they want mommy back. They want that connection, and there's an anxiety when we have that separation. And then as we grow, and at some point we need to individuate, we need to separate from our mom and dad and become individuals. Usually around puberty, we have this rebellion thing that goes on, and there's anxiety around, I need to break free, I need to be on my own, I need to do my own thing. There's an anxiety that comes from needing to separate and yet being afraid of separating. And then many people have had experiences, most people probably in their lives, where they have a relationship that breaks up and they're missing that person, and they're knowing they don't want to be with them anymore, but yet their heart is torn, and their head's going one way and their heart going. There's an anxiety that comes with separation. And even when you have a relationship that's deep and wonderful, I mean, I noticed just a couple of weeks ago, my wife was on the mainland on a trip for, we were separated for 10 days, and I was sitting by myself, for several days, and I noticed I had, life wasn't bad or anything, but there was this uncomfortable, there's a missing piece, she's supposed to be here. It feels a little anxious. a little anxious at least when she's not. So you can see how the separation anxiety works in our emotions. Well, on a bigger picture than that, those people who have worked their way to really understanding the connection of all things, the Christ, the Buddha, the people who really get it, they don't feel that separation anxiety. They know they're one with the universe. And on some level, many people are starting to get that more and more, that we aren't separate. We are all part of this one thing. And I think really a great growth, a great powerful growth in terms of how powerful and safe we can feel in the world comes when we really do get, deep, viscerally get that we aren't separate, that we are all part of one, and that spiritual pain, that spiritual loneliness thing disappears.
So usually when you hear the term separation anxiety, you may think about what happens at birth if a newborn infant is taken away from mom and not allowed that immediate bonding. You may think about the child that's put in daycare when mom's got to go to work. Often that comes out of economic necessity, and there are women that get upset when you talk about the damage that's done to kids from going to daycare before they're old enough to really tolerate it. They need mom, they need dad, they need a presence around them 24/7, not to be put with strangers. It's tragic that so many people have to have two-income families to get by in this day and age. So I think we both understand the economic necessity, but it means that you have to consider this when you decide to have children. Who's going to stay home? Somebody's got to stay home to take care of the kid. Or maybe separation anxiety to you when you first hear the term is going off to kindergarten, the little boy or little girl, you sending your kid, or maybe you remember being 5 years old and going to kindergarten for the first time.
I remember vividly when I was like 6 years old, dropping my little brother, my mom and I dropping my little brother off at nursery school for the first time, and he was terrified and pissed, and it was, to this day, he calls that one of the worst experiences of his life, that we just basically, got him distracted and ran away. We got him involved, and then we ran away, and we just deserted him. We just oh, he'll be okay. This was a lifelong traumatic experience for my brother. I'll tell you, we were talking about it just a few weeks ago, and he's in his 50s,
Dad still remembers. It's abandonment is what it really is. And another reason for parents to work more closely with school teachers and vice versa. And then, of course, there's the angst of being a teenager and the way you treat your parents, trying to create that separation, to cut that psychic cord. Much like the umbilical cord at birth, there's a cord that's stretched until it hurts when you're a teenager trying to get out of the house. And this loving relationship becomes a love-hate relationship, more separation anxiety. Well, what if Teilhard de Chardin and other philosophers like Plato, who've said that basically you are not a human being with a soul, you are a soul that incarnates as a human being. And if that soul shares the ground of the one life, the one thing, if it's part of God, and it gets extended into incarnation, into the separated body in a world of separated forms, could that not account at the most fundamental level for the fears and the anxieties that haunt us throughout our lives? What if all of our hurt is rooted in this fear that we've been spiritually abandoned here in what the rock star Sting called soul cages, little fleshy prisons that we're locked up in, and the best we can do is reach out and hope that somebody will hold our hands, or maybe we could get a hug or a loving embrace somehow, and experience through love and love-making this wonderful spiritual feeling of harmony, even unity, as if two people who love each other are one thing. And as Steve was just saying, his wife's gone for 10 days, and he feels this angst, this separation anxiety. Well, if we understand it, we can account for it. We can adjust for it, not merely tolerate it. And we can also work in our own lives and in the lives of our neighbors and friends and family people we care about, to help them understand and account for this spiritual separation anxiety.
What's the remedy? How do we start to become more connected, more feeling one with, and ultimately, how do we feel one with God or the all or the is or whatever name, the universe, whatever name you want to put on it? I think it starts like feeling safe with yourself and then feeling safe enough to connect with one other and then another and then another. And you don't start with connecting to the universe. You start with making sure that you're not alone down here. There's somebody else, other people that you can connect with. And my wife and I are going through a process right now, which is really very fascinating. My mom passed away not too long ago, just a few weeks back, and she was living with us. And so that there's this space that gets created, this energy that's gone, and this new room for intimacy and more connection. And that's what we both said we really, really want, is more connection. So I came up with this concept just a couple of days ago that I've been doing, and that is, once in a while, I'll just, when she's working on her thing and I'm doing my thing, I'll just get up and I'll walk over to where she is and I'll interrupt her for a moment, and I'm calling it like an intimate minute. Like, just look at me for a minute, take your glasses off, look at my eyes, I'll look in your eyes. Let's just feel the connection. Let's just appreciate and love each other. Let's just feel loved by each other and take a minute and just connect. It doesn't have to be any words, just feel that. And so, like, every few hours, I've been like, tap her on the shoulder and say, let's just take a minute here, just a minute. Breathe together, and it's really cool. I mean, it's lots of wonderful things go through your mind. And I'm thinking of like connecting with more people now. It's like that. It's time to do that. I just read a fascinating book called The Council of Dads, and this wonderful father found he was going to die pretty soon, and he wanted his kid to have the best of him. So he thought of like the 5 or 6 favorite guys he'd connected with in his life that represented different parts of him. And he asked those guys to be the council of dads. And whenever his daughter, as she was growing up without him, had questions about certain kinds of things, she'd call this one or that one or that one. What a cool idea that was. So what he did really was he reached back into his memory of his life and picked out this guy from when he was in his 20s and this guy when he was in his 30s, and just these people that he really was connected with at one time, but he had disconnected, and he made a reconnection with each of these people. And I just started doing that the other day. I started doing that with Facebook, just reaching out to some old friends and saying, I haven't really said hi to you in a long, long time, and just thinking about you, and when you got a chance to give me a call, kind of thing. Making connections with people that you were once connected with and disconnected with. I think that's another wonderful technique in terms of feeling more connection.
I do that with greeting cards a lot, and
you do it great with greeting cards.
I love doing it because everybody enjoys receiving them. You can't mistake a greeting card in your stack of mail. It's the first thing people open, and it's very meaningful to people. Email is necessary, and phone calls are very nice. But
it's not 21st century. In fact, it's square, but that double entendre is important because it is. It's a unique piece of mail. It looks like nothing else looks. It's
That's
square.
A deliberate pun,
yeah,
right?
Right.
Actually, they're 5x7, but I get your point. We should also talk about the spiritual connection that animals represent. And you have a couple of dogs. I've had dogs all my life. We're cat people now as we simplify our lives. But, people talk about how loving the animals are. And in my life of having dogs and cats in particular, these animals are like mirrors of our love. And with regard to our cats, for example, all 3 developed love as we loved them, as we petted them, as we paid attention to them, as we gave them time and loved them and cared about them. Their ability to love came out. In other words, to trust a human being. Especially our 3rd kitty, the one we rescued from the forest here about 1.5 years ago. She'd probably been out there for some time. Well, I noticed she was afraid of the room fan, for example. I figured she's probably run from owls in the past or other big birds. And so she's a little skittish at first and put off by the other kitties, but watching her come around, watching this trust develop, watching this love come out. And that's a spiritual concept that, you can talk about the debate, do animals have souls? Well, I guess If you're a religious person, that's debatable, but a spiritual person who isn't bound by this particular religion or that particular religion would have to say, well, if by soul you mean an ability to love, a capacity to experience love and trust, well, of course animals have that. And anybody that's worked closely with animals, I'm thinking of women and men that work with horses now, for example, and or the people that work with the dolphins and the whales, There's more going on there than getting this animal to jump through a hoop and give them a fish. It's just quite remarkable, the kinship, the spiritual loving connection that we can have with animals. And again, it's not an exchange of love. It's a reflection of each other's love and trust. I wish more and more people would work to get beyond the idea that love is a commodity that you can pass around like a bushel of apples or something. Here, let me give you some of my love, and you can give me a package of your love. It's more magnetic than that. It's like, here, my love is going to magnetize and attract love from you, which draws upon love in me. It's more of a field than something that's handed back and forth.
So creating that field, enhancing that field, manifesting that field in its greatest way is really what we're all about doing. It's feeling part of the whole, part of the all, feeling more and more connected. And it's, it's something you have, something you can grow, with your intention. It's not something that necessarily is going to grow by itself. But if you put your spotlight of consciousness on it and decide, this is what I want to pay attention to, this is what I want to do, I want to grow this connection, like with my intimate minute with my wife. My intention is to grow our connection, to feel that more intensely, to feel that right now more. So with that intention of growing your connection with others, feeling part of something greater than you is a step in the direction. So part of a club, a philosophy, a party, a organization, a nonprofit, a vision, a dream, a goal, a team, feeling like you and others are contributing to making something happen is a way to enhance that feeling of connection. Put your spotlight on what do you and other people have in common, what out there needs to be healed that you and other people want to get together to heal. What organization can you be part of? What team can you join? What can you manifest in your life to join your energy with the energy of others to feel that deeper connection, that lack of separation? It's very, very powerful when we enhance our connection, how much it enhances our lives. I was saying to Michael just a little while ago about how I notice in my life when I have a little bit more than enough, say, of money and stuff, and, I definitely have enough, and I have even a little more than that. Having a lot more than that doesn't make much difference. Having a lot more than I have more than enough feels really good. Having a lot more than enough feels just a tiny little bit better, not a whole lot. But when I have like more than enough connection, like enough would be barely enough to sustain it. I have more than enough. It's not going to fall apart. But as I add and have more and more connection, the rewards are huge. I mean, huge, much, much greater rewards for having deeper and closer and more connections to other human beings and to being part of things than you get from having more stuff, more things, more money. Now, having not enough is a whole different condition. But the difference between a little more than enough and a lot more than enough with money and stuff is very insignificant. The difference between a little more than enough and a lot more than enough when it comes to connection is a huge, huge difference. So to me, that makes it very, very clear where we need to put our priorities. Yes, we need to have our money together. We need to get our ducks in a row as much as possible. But really where the growth and fulfillment comes in our lives is being part of the fact that we're social beings and being social being with other people, feeling that connection. It's such a powerful and important part of life. And as we feel the connection to other human beings, through that we can feel the connection to the greater, grander, what I call the God, the universe, the everything. I think last week or the week before I talked about this wonderful Jewish proverb of, at one time there was just God, just light, and let there be light, and then light broke itself up into an infinite number of pieces, and in everything there is a piece of that light, and including inside of us, and our job is to point out the light when we see it and to experience the light when we feel it within us. So, what an enlightening idea that is.
Speaking of old Jewish proverbs, there is a line in the Talmud, I think, that says something about there are doors in heaven that open only to tears. And it's true that we do have to go through broken hearts as well as filled hearts. Everything has its season. You got summer, you got to have a winter. You got a full moon, you got to go through a new moon. That's just the way it is. And if you want the warm, loving presence of love, you're going to have your heart broken, even crushed and trampled a few times. That's just part of the deal. But you can learn from that. And, any marriage counselor will tell you that the two big issues that come up over and over again are money and sex. Well, sex is an outpicturing of love and feeling okay, feeling cared for, and feeling connected. So you've got money on one hand, you've got the spiritual love / sex on the other hand. These are very difficult times for a lot of people all over the world. Many people have always suffered from poverty, but in the United States, there are a lot of middle-class people that have never had to face poverty, and now they are. Or people who did real well throughout their entire lives, but now as they approach their senior years, they used to call these the golden years, approach the payoff time. Gold watch, retirement, not a chance. Pension, used to have one, don't know what happened to it. Some shenanigans on Wall Street gutted my pension. And so these are very difficult times for many people, and it's all the more necessary, I think, that when money is tight and when the world looks scary, that we don't turn on each other and take it out on each other and make things even worse, that we go to the heart, that we go to the soul and the spiritual self, and especially in difficult times, draw upon the wealth that love provides, the comfort. There are very wealthy and prosperous people that are miserable and very wealthy, prosperous people that are very happy. And so, too, this is my point, there are poor people that are very miserable and poor people that somehow find a way to be really, really happy.
They don't see themselves as poor.
I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Maybe challenged in terms of income and having to rely on some old-fashioned remedies to get by. And so what I'm saying is, when times are difficult, when times are tough, when it's probably easiest to take it out on the people that you love the most, catch yourself, check yourself, and do what Steve's doing, something like this. Make a deliberate attempt to reconnect, to express your feelings to each other. You don't want to win arguments when you disagree. You want to acknowledge the other person's feelings. And if you want acknowledgement, the best way to get it is to give that acknowledgement. Gee, this must be scary for you. I bet you feel lonely when I'm away. Love, and all of the qualities of love, happiness, consideration, generosity, kindness, compassion and forgiveness, patience and tolerance, these things are eternal, and these things are infinite, but you must put your attention on them. If you look only for darkness, guess what you're going to find? Nothing but more shadow. But if you turn and look for the light and move to the light and bring the light into the darkness, you can do that with your intention to be a kind, generous, considerate, loving person. You can fill the dark spaces and the shadows with light and the cold spots with warmth. You can do that for yourself, and the best way to do it for yourself is to give it away to other people, and thus you enhance the flow. This is the way that you establish and maintain a healing spiritually, and remind yourself that you've always been connected. Any sense that you're disconnected, that you've been abandoned in these fleshy soul cages, that you feel alone and lonely and separated and alienated is really just an illusion. It's a matter of appearances. So bring your consciousness to bear upon this situation. Put your attention on love and light and what that really means in a practical sense. Give it to somebody and watch it flow into your life. If nothing else, scratch a dog behind the ears or pet a kitty.
That works great, too. You know, one of my favorites, I've been doing this for a little while, I like a lot, to feel connected to all of humanity. You know, I have this image in my mind. I go to my peaceful place, to my paradise place, and I imagine, like, you know, those Where's Waldo kind of things, you know? Well, there's this huge sea of humanity, like every color, every race, every ethnicity, millions of people all together. And I'm like a camera from way out zooming in on all these happy, smiling, and then there I am, you know, like right in the middle, like with my biggest smile on my face. There I am in the middle of this sea of smiling faces. And it's like, yes, it's me. I'm an individual, but look, I'm also part of this huge, wonderful array of every kind of human being that there is, and just it's a great feeling to feel part of the puzzle, you know, an individual, unique part of the puzzle, but nonetheless, you know, any puzzle without any single piece is incomplete, and I'm the piece that's needed to complete the puzzle, and you're the piece that's needed to complete the puzzle, and it's just a wonderful feeling being not only unique and an individual, but also part of the all. I think those are the themes we ought to focus on as we go and take a trip to paradise.
Yeah, those people who think that shifting from self-interest to caring about the greater good is some sort of sacrifice, it always seemed to me fail to realize you're part of the greater good.
It wouldn't be the greater good if you weren't in it.
That's right. It's no sacrifice at all. You get lots of benefits, lots of perks. Let's do that audio journey, as Steve has suggested. So get comfortable. Hopefully this is a good time for you. A couple of shoulder shrugs and some head rolls, and get loose. And then sit back. It's okay if you sit back in the chair and allow the back of the chair to support you. And then take a few slow, deep breaths, inhaling ideally through the nose, and then exhaling through the mouth or the nose, whatever's most comfortable for you. Nice, big, full, deep breaths. Do 2, 3, 4 slow, deep breaths. And combine that with a feeling of letting go throughout your body. Muscles relaxing and unwinding. You can actually feel the letting go. And then allow your breathing to find its natural rhythm, its natural cadence.
Breathe deep and gentle and rhythmic, so your mind will know you're safe and free, and all the muscle tension releases, and you become relaxed, just like you want to be. Safe, relaxed, and clear. In paradise. Right here. And now, here in paradise, what does appear is a beautiful, ornate, full-length mirror. And you step up to that mirror, get very close, and see your eyes looking back at thee. So look into your own eyes there in the mirror and feel a connection right now, right here. That's you. And as you do, you know it's true that all love flows through your own love for you. So you feel your connection starting here to love and appreciate yourself. It's clear. Feel the connection. Grow. Feel the connection and know that the connection you have to others and the all begins here Clear the fear. Get that it's true, that all love flows through your own love for you.
Consider that in the area of your physical heart, there is a magnetic field that radiates out. The more loving you feel, in other words, the kinder, the more generous and patient and tolerant, the more forgiving you are, the greater and more powerful is that field that radiates out in all directions. And because it's a magnetic field, it's going to attract the same polarity. It'll attract love. In the physical world, opposites attract and like repels, but in the spiritual realms, the polarities are reversed. And like attracts like, and repels that which is not love. And as you feel your heart growing in this sense and becoming even more magnetic, attracting more love into your life, release the idea that love is a barter, that if someone gives you love, you'll give them love. Just let that go. Let it roll away. And put your attention on the growing, expanding, magnetic field that includes now the people you love the most, your family, your friends. And as it grows, it includes love for people you work with and people you know around town, and begins to include people that sometimes irritate you. Sometimes you don't even like being around them, but you know, they have a loving nature. They love their kids and their parents, and so you overlook that. You learn to love your neighbor, and then you consider that your neighbor is more than just down the block, but all around the world. And maybe you can even begin to experience your heart embracing the entire world and loving even your enemies, considering that that means refusing to be afraid of them, and similarly deciding not to frighten them, is not in anyone's interest. And feel that love growing, embracing the world, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. Imagine the universe as an ocean of love, of kindness and consideration. Nothing separated, nothing alone, except for appearances in a physical world of form. But beyond the appearance of separation, there is but one thing at work, and that thing is love.
And that thing is love. And we are always a part of that love and never apart from it. We always are a part of the one and never apart from it. We are of the one, of the all, of the is, of the God, of the universe. We are of, never apart, always connected through our heart. And as we relax, and as we release, and as we feel safe, in paradise, at peace, we feel the connection through introspection grows deeper to the one. Simply slowing your mind and putting that spotlight on attention. And the process has begun. Feel the connection through introspection. Feel the connection with the one. Simply having that basic intention, and the process has begun. Feel connected and let go of all those feelings of being neglected or separated or apart. Feel one and feel it in the heart.
Take a nice, slow, deep breath, inhaling from this field of universal love, truth, wisdom, forgiveness, and compassion. And as you exhale, breathe out into that field. And do it one more time as you prepare in a moment to open your eyes. Back in the room, take that nice breath now. Filling, hold as you peak, and now exhale slowly. And open your eyes wide awake, alert, rested, back in the room, feeling fine. In fact, better than before.
Feeling great, coming back from that state we call narrow awake. That place of paradise, that place of peace, that alpha brainwave state. That's the place you find yourself, the self being the higher self, the part that knows better in paradise. Every week we talk about different applications of finding yourself in paradise. We've been on a healing kick lately, pain control and emotional pain and physical pain and mental pain and now spiritual pain or the pain of loneliness and separation. We're going to talk next week about when they all come together in a sort of horrible way, and we call it depression, really the lowest of the lows. Something to look forward to next week, depression.
And what to do about it.
Yes, indeed.
We'll teach you how to redeem and refine that as well. Hey, thank you for being with us. Remember to log in every once in a while to focusedpassion.com just to use that send one to a friend gadget. And also remember, your programs, however you're receiving them, through the podcast folder on iTunes or some other podcatcher. Maybe you're listening with the RSS reader in your browser. Doesn't matter. They're always going to accumulate in the built-in player at focusedpassion.com. Plus, there's some really nice free articles there, too, you might want to check out. focusedpassion.com, and right under the built-in player, send one to a friend. Doesn't cost a nickel. Just go ahead, send these programs to people you know who would really benefit from them. Appreciate them and enjoy listening to them. Share what works for you. And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.